Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. Seven influential U.S. lawmakers have written to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo over the farmers' protests in India. In the letter, they expressed serious concern and urge him to raise the issue with his Indian counterpart. They acknowledge the right to peaceful protest against laws many Indian farmers see as an attack on their economic security. Farmers have camped on Delhi borders against contentious agricultural reforms for 30 days now. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Israel's actions in Palestine are unacceptable. Speaking to reporters in Istanbul, he said Turkey has problems with Israel's leadership. Ankara has repeatedly condemned Israel's occupation of the West Bank and its treatment of Palestinians. The United States has surpassed 329,000 deaths from the coronavirus with over 18.5 million cases. Iran has won U.S. approval to transfer funds to buy vaccines from overseas. In the past 24 hours, the virus has claimed 85 lives in Pakistan and infected more than 2,100 people. The nationwide death toll has risen to 9,753, while globally there are 1.74 million fatalities and more than 79 million infections. Pakistan is celebrating the birth anniversary of its founder, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Special events are being held to highlight Muhammad Ali Jinnah's views and lifelong political struggle. In his message, Prime Minister Imran Khan says a proud nation was destined to come into being the day Jinnah was born. Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa says Quaid's dictum of faith, unity and discipline shall remain a guiding principle. Christians around the world are celebrating Christmas to mark the birth of Jesus Christ with traditional festivities and holiday cheer. In a tweet, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan wished all Christian citizens a happy and safe Christmas. And in cricket, Pakistan will face New Zealand in the first test of the two-match series at Bay Oval tomorrow. The Greens suffered another blow after Shadab Khan was ruled out of the match due to a thigh injury. Pakistan have already lost skipper Babar Azam and Imam-ul-Haq in the first test to injuries. These were the headlines. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back now. Moving on with the news stories. 7 influential U.S. lawmakers have written to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo over the farmers' protests in India. In the letter, they expressed serious concern over the ongoing civil unrest. They also urged Pompeo to raise the issue with his Indian counterpart, S. Jaishankar. They acknowledge the right to peaceful protest against laws many Indian farmers see as an attack on their economic security. Meanwhile, farm unions met today to discuss a new offer for talks by the government. They say the invitation is nothing but propaganda to create an impression that peasants are not interested in dialogue. Farmers have camped on Delhi borders against contentious agricultural reforms for 30 days now. The US has condemned the recent murders of rights activists and doctors in Afghanistan. In a tweet, Special Envoy Zalmi Khalilzad said Yusuf Rashid and Farishta Kohistani were patriots and those wanting peace should not be harmed. Khalilzad said the targeted killings threatened the peace process and must end. The envoy called for an urgent peace settlement and accountability for those behind these terrorist acts. Now, this comes after gunmen shot dead Farishta Kohistani, a women's rights activist, and her brother in Kabul. She is the second activist to be killed in 2 days after a prominent pro-democracy advocate was gunned down in Kabul. Now, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Israel's actions in Palestine are unacceptable. Speaking to reporters in Istanbul, he said Turkey's problems with Israel are due to its leadership. Erdogan added that Ankara will never accept Israel's merciless acts against the Palestinian people. Ankara has repeatedly condemned Israel's occupation in the West Bank and its treatment of Palestinians. Meanwhile, Palestine's foreign ministry has urged the United Nations to stop Israel's illegal settlements in the West Bank. Earlier, dozens of Israeli settlers protected by the occupying forces attacked Palestinian vehicles near Ramallah. Now, in Syria, Israeli warplanes launched a barrage of rockets on Christmas Eve in the central town of Masyaf in Hama province. In a statement, Syria's defense ministry said its air defense intercepted and destroyed most of the missiles. The ministry said Israel launched aggression from the north of the Lebanese city of Tripoli. Masyaf is a significant area for President Bashar Assad's regime, with a military academy and a scientific research center. Earlier, the Israeli Defense Forces said they conducted numerous operations in Syria. Meanwhile, media reports say Israeli jets also flew at very low altitude over Lebanon, terrifying residents with thunder sounds. Meanwhile, the Libyan National Army commander Khalifa Haftar has threatened to target Turkish forces deployed in the country. This comes after Ankara decided to extend the placement for 18 months. Haftar said there will be no security or peace in Libya as long as Turkish forces remain. Speaking on Libya's 69th Independence Day, he said LNA will carry weapons to bring about peace with their free will. Meanwhile, UN mission in Libya has called on the parties to move forward with the implementation of the ceasefire agreement. In a statement, the mission stressed the importance of building on the progress achieved so far to end brutal fighting. Libya's warring side signed a UN-brokered truce in late October and also decided a date for general elections. Now, Bahrain has rejected Qatar's claim that 4 Bahraini fighter jets violated its airspace in December. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry called Doha's claim irresponsible and baseless. It said 2 Bahraini and 2 US F-16 aircraft conducted a military drill in the designated area in Saudi Arabia's airspace. The ministry said the jets returned to Bahrain and did not use Qatari airspace on their way back. Qatar sent a letter to the UN Security Council to inform it of the alleged breach on December 9. Meanwhile, speaking at the first meeting of Saudi Bahraini Coordinating Council, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman reiterated a pledge to keep working with Manama to preserve mutual interest, security and stability. The European Union and United Kingdom have agreed on a post-Brexit trade deal ending months of stalemate over fishing rights and future business rules. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced the agreement in separate news conferences.
The deal will preserve tariff-free trade in goods between the two sides and protect cooperation in other areas such as security. Johnson hailed the agreement as the biggest trade deal yet. The Prime Minister said the UK has taken back control of its laws, borders, and fishing waters. He added London will be Brussels' friend, ally, supporter, and indeed the #1 market. In a Christmas message, Johnson said he wanted to end uncertainty and give the UK a chance of bouncing back stronger next year.
Tidings, glad tidings of great joy, because this is a deal to give certainty to business and travellers and all investors in our country from the 1st of January, a deal with our friends and partners in the EU. You remember the oven-ready deal by which we came out on January the 31st? That oven-ready deal was just the starter. This is the feast, full of fish, by the way. And I believe it will be the basis of a happy and successful and stable partnership with our friends in the EU for years to come. So that's it. That's the good news from Brussels.
British lawmakers will vote on the post-Brexit deal on the 30th of December. Labour Party leader Keir Starmer said the opposition will back the government's trade deal when it is put before Parliament. Commenting on the deal, the chief executive fishermen's organisations, Barry Diaz, said the industry is bitterly disappointed. Brexit campaigner Nigel Farage said the deal is not perfect, but it is a lot better off than London was 5 years ago. Meanwhile, EU President Ursula von der Leyen said successful negotiations have made parting a sweet sorrow.
Negotiating position was as strong because it was the European Union who said very clear, if the United Kingdom wants access to the single market, the largest single market in the world, without quota and without tariffs, then they are, as a sovereign country, free to decide whether they play by the rules, like every other company in the single market too. This is the level playing field. If they do not want to follow the rules, then there will be quota tariffs, so there is a price to pay for that.
Leyen said the deal is the most comprehensive agreement and it will write history.
Well, now the US has surpassed 329,000 deaths from the coronavirus with over 18.5 million cases. Iran has won US approval to transfer funds to buy vaccines from overseas. Globally, there are 1.74 million fatalities and more than 79 million infections. More on the coronavirus in this report.
Christmas 2020 comes at a jittery moment as the mutating coronavirus casts a shadow over the celebrations. The only hope in these times is brought by the gradual approvals of vaccines, indicating the beginning of the end of a global health emergency. Experts have put forward a heart-wrenching forecast that over 567,000 Americans will have died from COVID-19 by April. But health officials say the saddest part is that these deaths can be prevented. Over in the south, Chile has started its inoculation program, becoming the first Latin American state to do so.
Our plan, and we are working towards this, is to vaccinate at the risk population, those who are chronically ill, the elderly, health personnel, as well as other groups who are committed to the fight against coronavirus, and to do this in the first quarter of 2021.
Unlike the results coming out from Brazil, Turkey says the vaccine developed by China's Sinovac is 91% effective. Coronavirus mutations spreading at alarming rates in the UK and South Africa are provoking alarm. However, Pfizer CEO and other experts are optimistic that vaccines will protect against the new variants. This comes as over 600,000 Britons have already received the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Meanwhile, South Korea has reported a new record high of daily COVID-19 cases.
Today we have the highest record of the new coronavirus cases, with more than 1,200 cases nationwide and over 800 in the metropolitan area. Apart from the metropolitan area, we also see a rising number of confirmed cases, with more than 300 cases.
Elsewhere, Australia's New South Wales state has increased testing to rein in a resurgence of coronavirus infections in Sydney.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 85 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to over 9,753. Health officials reported over 2,000 infections overnight, with more than 38,000 active cases in the country. The Health Ministry said out of over 467,000 countrywide cases, nearly 419,000 people have recovered. The ministry added over 208,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province. Punjab has reported more than 134,000 cases. In the capital, Islamabad, nearly 37,000 have been infected so far. Moving on, US lawmakers have blocked attempts to amend a vital $900 billion stimulus package. Earlier, President Donald Trump sent the legislation back to Congress for changes. Trump had asked for one-off payments to Americans to be increased and foreign aid to be cut. Republicans refused to allow the increase in coronavirus payments from $600 to $2,000. The stimulus measure is wrapped up with a $1.4 trillion funding bill. Democrats blocked Republican attempts to cut foreign aid from the federal spending bill. Without the budget bill, the government will be forced to shut down at midnight on Monday. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back now. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi and his Egyptian counterpart discussed regional issues in a phone call. In a statement, the Foreign Office said the two ministers discussed ways to further strengthen bilateral ties. Qureshi briefed Sameh Shoghri on developments in occupied Kashmir. He also urged the world to take steps to address the worsening human rights situation in the valley. The Foreign Minister thanked Egypt for its cooperation during the 47th session of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Now, the US has started the process of establishing a consulate in Western Sahara to recognize Morocco's claim. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the virtual presence most will promote economic and social development in the region. In a statement, Pompeo said the US Embassy in Morocco will manage this virtual post. He added the post will soon be followed by a fully functioning US consulate in the region. He said Washington will continue to support negotiations to resolve issues between Morocco and Polisario. This came just weeks after Donald Trump's administration formally recognized Morocco's claim to the disputed territory. Now, in the U.S. state of Ohio, the Columbus police chief has called for the dismissal of an officer who shot dead a black man. This comes as the shooting of Andre Morris Hill sparks a fresh wave of protests against racial injustice and police brutality. Chief Thomas Quinlan said the police officer engaged in an act of senseless violence. He said he filed 2 departmental charges of critical misconduct against the officer, Adam Coy. It includes unreasonable use of deadly force and failure to render aid to Hill after he was shot. The city's public safety director will hold a hearing on Monday to rule on the police chief's recommendations. Meanwhile, dozens of protesters gathered in Columbus, waving Black Lives Matter signs and calling for justice. Moving on, Russia says it has never neglected to retaliate against countries that exert pressure on its media. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said Moscow is not only reacting verbally but will react practically too. Zakharova said it is not the Russian way of doing things, but as a response they will resort to it. Earlier, lawmakers approved a law that could block US social media sites found to discriminate against Russian media. Moscow could levy big fines on platforms that do not delete content banned in the country. Also, Russian law enforcement agencies have opened a criminal case against Lyubov Sobol, an ally of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. Navalny and his supporters say police took her in the questioning after raiding her home. They said Sobol earlier visited the home of an alleged FSB security service agent in Moscow. But lawyer Ivan Danov says police suspect Sobol of violating the sanctity of someone's home with the use of threat or violence. The charge carries a punishment of up to 2 years in jail. Navalny had earlier said the man took part in a botched plot to poison him in August. Now, the FSB has dismissed Navalny's allegations as a provocation designed to discredit it. Pakistan is celebrating the birth anniversary of its founder, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, with a renewed pledge for prosperity.
The day started with a change of guard ceremony at Jinnah's mausoleum in Karachi. Special prayers were arranged for the security, progress and prosperity of the country. The national flag has been hoisted at all government and private buildings. Special events have been planned for the day in order to shine a light on Jinnah's life and legacy. In his message, Prime Minister Imran Khan vindicated Quaid's message of confidence and courage. Khan said with his actions, Quaid became a prototype of honesty and righteousness. The nation is determined to stick with his guiding principle of unity, faith and discipline. His 40 years of struggle gave Muslims a country where he aspired to see them living as free citizens second to none. Meanwhile, Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa says Quaid's dictum of faith, unity and discipline shall remain a guiding principle.
Also, Christians around the world are celebrating Christmas to mark the birth of Jesus Christ with holiday cheer. How people have been enjoying the festivities, find out in this report.
The joyous traditional festivities of Christmas have scaled down to small family gatherings this year. Christmas Eve masses are now low-key events amid the pandemic. The Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris played host to a Christmas Eve choral concert. In a concession to the fact that the cathedral is still being rebuilt, the choristers wore construction hard hats and boiler suits, and there was no audience. Over in Italy, the famous Trulli or limestone buildings of Alberobello were lit up with Christmas animations. In Vatican City, the Mass is usually held in the main section of St. Peter's Basilica and attended by up to 10,000 people, including the diplomatic corps representing nearly 200 countries. But this year, Pope Francis celebrated Mass in a rear section of the Basilica with fewer than 100 participants and only a number of cardinals and bishops.
He came into the world as each child comes into the world, weak and vulnerable, so that we can learn to accept our weaknesses with tender love.
Like other parts of the world, Christmas celebrations in Jordan are also different this year. Social distancing and masks were in full view at the Church of Sacred Heart in the capital Amman. 2 separate masses were organized so more people could be accommodated. In Palestine, Menger Square appeared almost empty when Bethlehem, which is revered as Jesus' birthplace, kicked off celebrations amid COVID-19 rules and fears. Just 12 months ago, the Palestinian town was celebrating its busiest festive season for 2 decades. But now, hotels that were adding new wings in 2019 are shuttered and Christmas events will be held online. The newly appointed Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, who himself contracted the virus and recovered, is leading this year's celebrations.
It's a very sad Christmas because we cannot celebrate according to the tradition because of the pandemic. We will stress on intimate and family Christmas. We don't have anything else. But we will enjoy, despite all.
Meanwhile, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan wished all Christian citizens a happy and safe Christmas. In a tweet, Khan urged the minority community to keep observing COVID SOPs.
Now, Mali's longtime opposition leader, SOUMAILA CISSE, has died at the age of 71. His spokesman has confirmed that the leader died due to coronavirus in Paris. CISSE finished runner-up in the 2013 and 2018 presidential elections to Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. He was considered one of the favourites in a vote expected in early 2020 after Keïta's overthrow in a military coup in August. CISSE was kidnapped in March by extremists while campaigning for legislative elections in Timbuktu, but was released in October alongside French aid worker Sophie Petronin and 2 Italian hostages. CISSE was a computer engineer by trade and studied in Senegal and France. Now, in the U.S. state of California, a mural is being painted to honor the work carried out by frontline medical workers during the pandemic. The painting was commissioned by medical scrubs company Barco Uniforms and non-profit Beautify Earth. Details in this report.
A superhero doesn't necessarily wear a cape. Sometimes they come in scrubs and face masks, and COVID proved just that in 2020. In California, Samir Arkanwal, also known as street artist Samir Ewal, is painting a homage to frontline workers against the pandemic. He began the image on December 14th and plans to have it finished by January.
This is pretty much to honor all of the health care professionals that's been putting their lives on the line day in, day out for the last 10 months. That's been just a nightmare, and within that nightmare we try to find some sort of hope, and that's the title of this piece is You Bring Hope.
He will be working over the holidays, including Christmas days, to get the mural finished. He is keen to make their facial expressions as real as possible.
The expressions, because I can only imagine, the how exhausted they are, dealing with this day in, day out. So I kind of wanted to just capture the emotion of, like the one on the end. She's ready, she's prepared to go to war, helping people out, and you can see her putting on her thing, and her eyes, she knows she's going in, to war basically against COVID, and this guy is just really exhausted, but they're there, they're like, we're here for you.
The mural can be found at 2010 Wilshire Boulevard in Santa Monica.
Now, China is the only major economy in the world to continue positive growth this year despite the pandemic. The International Monetary Fund says China's gross domestic product is forecasted to be expanding 1.9% this year. The annual Central Economic Work Conference said China scored decisive achievements in 3 key areas. It saw significant progress in critical battles against poverty, pollution and major risks. In the second half of the year, industrial production in Jilin and Heilongjiang provinces grew at its fastest rate since 2013. In June this year, the entire Litang County achieved full 5G signal coverage, and in July, the first 5G base station was officially put into operation. Meanwhile, stocks in Asia Pacific are mostly trading higher as investors react to a Brexit trade deal between the UK and the European Union. South Korea's Kospi is leading by gains by adding over 1.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is trading up fractionally. Mainland Chinese shares have edged up more than 0.5%. Shares in Australia are also in positive territory, with the ASX 200 up nearly 0.5%. Meanwhile, in Japan, the Nikkei 225 and the Topix Index have fallen below the flat line. Now in cricket, Pakistan will face New Zealand in the first test of the 2-match series at Bay Oval tomorrow. The Greens suffered another blow after Shadab Khan was ruled out of the match due to a thigh injury. Pakistan have already lost skipper Babar Azam and Imamul Haq in the first test to injuries. The team will be led by Mohammad Rizwan for the match. Meanwhile, New Zealand have a complete squad led by Kane Williamson. Earlier, New Zealand won the 2020 series 2-1 against Pakistan. The annual tradition of surfing Santa took place at Cocoa Beach in Florida despite the pandemic. A socially distant Santa Claus hit the waves along Gold Coast to spread the holiday cheer virtually. According to the Space Coast Daily, the annual tradition that happens every Christmas Eve began in 2009. Organizers of this year's event asked hundreds of surfers, also known as helpers, to record themselves in their home turfs. The event aims to raise money for the Florida Surf Museum and Grained for Life. It is a charity that helps cancer patients and their families. And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.